Hello and welcome to the Philanthropic Impact webinar series. My name is Dan Horgan. I'm the Senior Director of Corporate Engagement with Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership. On behalf of our organization and our speakers today, I just want to thank you all so much for taking the time to tune in. Whether you're listening to this live or listening to the recording, today's topic is around public-private partnerships and mentoring, with a specific spotlight on an amazing program out on the West Coast with Genentech and the South San Francisco Unified School District. Before we jump into today's conversation, I just wanted to highlight a few key things. One is from an operations standpoint, everyone has been muted, so everyone's line has been muted on the phone, just to maintain the best sound quality for the recording. If you have any questions at all throughout the course of the conversation this afternoon, please feel free to use the chat box. I'll be monitoring that chat box and make sure we have plenty of time at the end for some Q&A as well. And also, just so everybody knows, we are recording today's session, and we'll make both the slides from today's presentation as well as the recording available to everyone. And again, just as a reminder, the Philanthropic Impact webinar series is really designed to put a spotlight on innovative partnerships, practices, and programs in the field of youth mentoring. As I mentioned today, I am joined by two incredible speakers who I will introduce in a few moments. Ragnar von Scheiber, who's the Associate Director of Corporate Citizenship and Engagement at Genentech, and Jason Brockmeyer, who's the Director of Innovation, Community Outreach, and Special Projects at the South San Francisco Unified School District, are going to be leading the majority of today's conversation, and I'll be moderating by adding some questions throughout today's conversation, and then making sure, again, we integrate your questions from the chat box as well. Before we get started, I just wanted, if you're not familiar with Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of our organization and the work that we do across the country. So our organization has been around for 26 years. We're a national nonprofit organization that really is centered around the mission of increasing the quantity and the quality of youth mentoring in the United States. We essentially do that in three different ways. We raise public awareness of both the need for youth mentoring and the impact of youth mentoring programs. We provide training and technical assistance to both mentoring programs and mentors directly to really help drive effective practices within the mentoring field and drive the deepest impact possible. And then lastly is we, on an annual basis, put forward a research agenda to constantly be looking at the latest innovation in the youth mentoring field and continually studying the effective practices within youth mentoring. Obviously, we know that this work cannot be done by a single organization, and so we work in partnership with a national program network of over 2,000 mentoring programs. We have a sampling of those programs on the screen for you and range from organizations like Spark, I Could Be, City Year, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and so many more. One key thing I would just highlight is that many mentoring programs across the country, over 50%, actually operate with an annual budget of under $50,000. And so our infrastructure within the youth mentoring field is pretty low, and we're really trying to strengthen that infrastructure so that we can ultimately serve more young people and really continually drive forward the most effective practices in the mentoring space. That's why these particular webinar series are so important to continually enhance and strengthen the field. We work in partnership with a national network of mentoring affiliates across the country. Right now we have 24 regional and state affiliates that do those same three buckets of work that I mentioned earlier at a regional or state level. Right now, we're in the process of expanding to about 8 new affiliates over the next 12 to 18 months as well. And then lastly, obviously, this work is not only done with mentoring programs, but also in terms of public-private partnerships, one of which obviously we will be spotlighting and really digging into deeply today. But we work with dozens of corporations and foundations across the country that provide support in multiple ways. So everything from engaging their employees as mentors to helping to invest in the research, the training and technical assistance is needed in the field, to providing pro bono expertise to strengthen the capacity and the infrastructure of our mentoring field. Many people often ask us to articulate the need of mentoring, and so I summarize it with the latest research that we have that states that 1 in 3 young people are growing up in America today without a mentor, which essentially shows 30% of America, that's our mentoring gap. And what we are doing is trying to close that gap, not just by connecting one caring adult to young person, but by ultimately strengthening a young person's web of relationship support. And lastly, we know from our research published last year called The Mentoring Effect, which was the first national study asking young people themselves about the outcomes and the impact of their mentoring experience. We know that it has positive impacts on their academic performance, on their career pathways, on setting and achieving life goals. And my favorite statistic of this research is the last point here, which is 90% of the young people surveyed said that they wanted to in turn serve as a mentor for someone younger than them, which is, again, just a great example of the rippling effect that mentoring can have in communities across the country. So with that introduction, I am going to turn it over to our two speakers today, Ragnar and Jason, to walk us through and facilitate our conversation today about the incredible program called Futurelab. Ragnar, Jason?
Thanks, Dan. So my name is Ragnar, and I lead corporate citizenship here at Genentech, which basically means giving our time and our dollars and our talent to the communities where we have Genentech sites. Love that we're doing this webinar here. Partnerships are really at the core of how we operate at Genentech and how we work internally within our company, and then also externally in our pursuit of science and the development of our medicines, as well as in the philanthropy and our philanthropy and community benefit work. So I'm particularly proud of the partnership we have with South San Francisco Unified School District, and today, together with Jason, I'm excited to tell you more about that work and what we've accomplished since we began doing this in 2008. So if we could go to the next slide. A little bit about Genentech here on this slide. So we were founded in 1976, and we are considered the founder of the biotech industry. We're headquartered in South San Francisco, which is well named. It's just south of San Francisco. And we have about almost 15,000 employees right now who are working to bring medicines to solve some serious diseases. If we can jump to the next slide. So at Genentech, science really drives our business, and the future of science starts with students. And we see that it can take years for our scientists to develop a new medicine. And in that same time, those decades, a student can actually develop into a scientist, and that's just in time to start working on our next medicine. I love this quote from our CEO, which really showcases this long-term view and really our long-term commitment to the next generation of scientists and those supporters of science too, who are sitting in classrooms right now and right across the freeway from us in South San Francisco. So now I'm going to hand it over to Jason to introduce the South San Francisco Unified side and our work together.
Hi, thank you, Ragnar. My name is Jason Brockmeyer, and I am the Director of Innovation, Community Outreach, and Special Projects for the South San Francisco Unified School District, which is a small urban district just south of San Francisco, small being about a little under 9,000 students. One of my major roles is developing and strengthening this partnership with Genentech to ensure that our students are being prepared for the challenges in front of them. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, sorry, one back. I have a big delay. So education currently in California, as you can see, is lagging behind some of our other states. California, with over 6 million K through 12 students, is facing the challenge that many other states are facing, which is meeting the needs of every learner to ensure they are prepared for the 21st century workforce. The Bay Area itself, where we're located, is a hub of STEM-driven innovation and careers. And our big challenge, and the challenge that we are trying to solve with Genentech, is to ensure that our students are leaving our system with the necessary skills to be successful in both college and career. But in our area, this is particularly pressing. Next slide. Next, yep. So South San Francisco, ourselves, looking at our demographics, really represents California as a whole. We have families living in million-dollar homes, and we have families who are sharing tight living quarters with other families. Have students with a plethora of resources and support, and students who struggle to get their basic needs met. All of these realities afford us the tremendous opportunities to significantly impact the lives of all of our children. On one end, we're trying to fight, breaking the poverty cycle, and on the other end, we're trying to ensure that all students are consistently being engaged in rigorous and relevant learning experiences, and specifically with our relationship with Genentech, really focusing on that STEM and building a STEM pipeline both into college and career. Next slide. So though, as you can see, this is a representation of the Bay Area. South San Francisco itself is located on the west shore of the Bay. And we are located in the mecca of STEM careers, but we are facing the reality that there is a huge shortage of qualified candidates for these jobs. And on top of that, an extreme lack of diversity within the workforce. We are getting feedback from companies that the students are not prepared for the workforce. And at the same time, the schools, and especially higher education, are feeling that we are preparing the students. So we have this big disconnect. And what's been beautiful about this partnership is Genentech is sitting down with us, a system that is K through 12, and trying to solve this extremely large disconnect. And seeing how the private world is merging with the world of public education to try to solve this big problem. Next slide. So Futurelab is what our partnership and really through a big collaborative process is our overarching K through 12 STEM ideas. Futurelab Goals really demonstrate this truly collaborative partnership. We not only spend countless hours co-designing a common mission and vision with clearly articulated goals, but we are also holding each other accountable for the outcomes. I can't tell you how invaluable it is having various backgrounds and perspectives at the table trying to solve the challenges of creating a K through 12 STEM pathway throughout our district in which students are consistently engaged in rigorous and relevant learning experiences. The fact that Genentech is looking to their backyard and trying to help support us in creating these experiences has just been tremendous. Next slide. And again, as we look at the future design principles, we see the collaboratively created action plan to meet our goals. One of the really key principles that's unique about this relationship and that I want to focus on is the support of teachers and the support of building the capacity within our district to make our vision a reality. Genentech has been fabulous at really lending their expertise, lending their ear, lending their resources to help us accomplish these goals. And these are our vision is very lofty and very challenging at times, but having them at the table, having their expertise, and also at times their patience with us as we really try to conquer some of these challenging goals has been fabulous. And I can't stress the uniqueness of this partnership. Ragnar?
Okay. Dan, if you could go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Awesome. So Futurelab has a few key elements that drive everything that we do together, and I want to highlight these in the next upcoming slides. The first is really place. Our hyper-local approach really aims to make a difference right here in our South San Francisco backyard. And our intense focus on one school district, K through 12, I think is really pretty unique for a company because it's allowing us to continuously building on our impact together with the school district. Let's go to the next slide, Dan. The second is a deep emphasis on hands-on STEM. And I love, Jason says, rigorous and relevant hands-on. And those are great words that he's brought into the conversation. We know that students love learning when they're engaged in doing something that's meaningful and fun. And Futurelab programs provide exciting, real-world science activities that are appropriate to grade level and also engage students at every skill level. So it's not just about the best and the brightest, it's about every student within the school district. Next slide. Mentoring, right? That's why we're here. The third element of our focus is really on mentoring. And we believe that people learn best from other people. And those are big people, those are small people. By connecting our employee volunteers with South San Francisco students, we know we're creating meaningful relationships on both sides, while we're also spreading our love for science to the next generation and helping kids see themselves in careers they never knew existed. On our side, our employees report real benefit from our programs, greater pride in working at Genentech, more connections across the company with other employees, and stronger skills that they bring back to their job that they were hired to do. Let's go to the next slide, Dan. And the fourth key element to our success is this unique partnership with South San Francisco schools. So Futurelab was built in SSF for SSF, and we know at Genentech that South San Francisco teachers and administrators know best what their students need and what will work in their classrooms. So we've always had to listen very closely to what they're saying. This last element really ensures that we can do any of this amazing work that we are doing. Let's go to the next slide. I want to tell you a little bit more about some of our programs that we do as part of Futurelab. So here are 3 of about 10 different activities that we've designed together with South San Francisco Unified. It starts off in elementary school with Gene Academy, where 200 kids come on campus for an entire academic year for weekly mentoring with 2 mentors, not 1. And they do basic homework help and get excited about, wow, blow it up kind of science. It's really fun. In middle school, every 8th grader in the entire school district learns how to do science in the Helix Cup, which is a 6-month-long science competition where students are solving a series of design challenges like, design a centrifuge or build a robot in a team-based approach, which is strengthening students' communication, their collaboration, their critical thinking skills. More than 100 Genentech volunteer coaches are matched with those classrooms, and they visit their students monthly to mentor them through the competition. So, and then the third pillar is Science, which is a 4-year biotech curriculum that's offered to all South San Francisco high school students. It also includes a state-of-the-art teaching facility that we built and donated to the school district. Here, another 70 volunteer mentors are matched with classrooms for an entire academic year and help the kids prepare and execute and reflect on the day-to-day hands-on labs that they're doing. Let's go to the next slide, Dan.
Hey, Ragnar, can I just jump in real quick and ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So one of the things that I think is so unique about the partnership between Genentech and the South San Francisco Unified School District is the commitment to really work at reaching all of the students K through 12. Can you guys talk a little bit about the sort of the logic or the context behind that decision versus honing in and saying we're just going to focus with high school students or with middle school students?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, it's really interesting because we have some of the smartest minds in our labs at Genentech. Early on, when we were looking at, hey, how do we really want to move the needle in a philanthropic and a community-based way? We did a lot of internal reflection and talking with people within the company. Some of those smartest minds said, I did terribly in school. And not because they were dumb, not because they were just they didn't have drive. They didn't connect to how education is taught in the schools from the textbook perspective, right? And so really hearing, wow, this person who, has an amazing mind and is doing so much for the company and for medicine, clearly was overlooked, and the education system really didn't speak to them. Our programs, like we said, are really focused on that hands-on aspect, and we see the kids that don't do necessarily very well in a traditional, textbook type of format. They're the ones who are really excelling, right? And we see that in our programs. We know this, that students who are different learners than book learners are really going to connect with the way that we're engaging students through Futurelab programs.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. I mean, I think one of the things I was sharing with you earlier, I had the opportunity to attend the Million Women Mentors STEM Connector Summit in Washington, D.C. earlier this week. And one of the things that was so fascinating was they were talking about young girls who don't have exposure to professionals within STEM careers early on in their education system, often don't ever see it as a viable career pathway or a viable area of interest that they can explore further. And so I just, again, just jump in and applaud you guys for being so forward thinking and saying, and I love the expressions that you have on this particular slide, that in the younger grades, it's about making science fun for them and introducing them to all the science concepts. Then it's about engaging them in a really tactical way about the fact that they can do it, sort of empowering them to step up to the plate, and then ultimately seeing themselves in a potential STEM career pathway. So I'll keep moving on in the slides, but just wanted to jump in and have you share a little more context.
And it's
Absolutely.
also, the way in which we learn and building that strong foundation and that science literacy at a young age, and getting them into that pipeline. And then, we talk often, Ragnar and I, about, not trying to create sparks where students get some engagement, but then they fall off again, that they're constantly being engaged in this rich STEM curriculum, and enhancing their skills and building on their skills so that, by the time they do get to our high school, or by the time they are leaving our high schools, that they really truly are equipped with those skills to, be prepared for college and to be prepared for the careers they're pursuing.
Absolutely. That's great.
Awesome. So great. So Gene Academy is actually where all of our Futurelab work started. And that was back in 2018. So next year, we're going to, this partnership has been going on really for about 10 years. At that time, Genentech wanted to help out in local schools, but we had no idea how to do that. And so we actually just reached out over the freeway and asked. And the superintendent of schools at that time said their students in their Title I schools needed basic homework help with reading, writing, and math. And so we did that for a number of years. With time, though, we evolved into a current 50% science and 50% language arts and math format. So kids are alternating, 1 week science and then 1 week ELA and math. And this happened really in discussion with the district, because for a program to really be strategic and core for us, the district understood that there had to be a science focus in the program. But we also didn't want to shift 100% over to that, because we also really understood that students can't do science if they don't have the basics, right? So it's that real listening, communication, openness. Let's figure out what's really going to work. That we've been able to navigate through our partnership. Dan, the next slide. So continuing on with Helix Cup, in 2014, we approached the district, wanting to do more with schools. And at that time, our partnership had become a little bit more distant. There were like new players on both sides, and it had declined to just a little bit of communication. And we came at the district with some big, flashy corporate ideas about blowing up education in South San Francisco, which were super well-intentioned, but really ill-advised. And that was a mistake. You know, we've made some mistakes along the way here, but we had to just stop, sit down, reconnect, realign. And from Genentech's side, we really had to take a listening role and hear the needs of students and teachers from them, so that help from us was really helpful. We do not want to be coming at a partner with our own agenda, and it's hard to say no. And in many partnerships, that power dynamic can be very, very lopsided, and we don't want to have that here. Helix Cup is a great example of this, and our initial idea was to do a competition that was biotech focused for high school students, and ooh, really cool. You know, our friends at SSF told us that's just way too advanced. For these kids, if we really want to move the needle, we had to start younger. Again, more basic science, and so this is an 8th grade competition that's more focused on just basic science ultimately. And I'm really glad that we listened to the students, because to the schools, because students, teachers, and volunteers really all love this program. I'm going to hand it over back to Jason here now.
Thank you, Ragnar. So Dan, the next slide. So Science Garage is both the name for our biotech pathway and also the name of our state-of-the-art biotech facility, which is on one of our high school campuses. The biotech pathway is in the 2nd year of implementation at both high schools, and I think it's really the pinnacle of our programs. It's the end destination for our students before they leave us to college or leave us into their careers. And I think really exemplifies Genentech's commitment to making our vision a reality. You know, the collaboration on both sides to not only launch this pathway, which is truly engaging students in relevant and rigorous hands-on science, but also to sustain it over the long term. And the collaboration, again, with a lot of trial and error, really the end result, we're seeing it now with students highly engaged in very relevant learning experiences. You know, Genentech has done everything from the financial support of providing us the seed money to for us to release a science teacher out of the classroom to help develop the curriculum, to help design the building, to research what the students need, to implement the pathway. And, you know, today, having, you know, 60 volunteers over the year come into our classrooms and help support the students and the teachers with this curriculum. One of the struggles for teachers as we shift to NGSS, as we shift onto this hands-on environment where we shift into a place where teachers don't have all the answers, having that support, having the human capital in the classroom has just been amazing. And again, met with some challenges, but then to see the end result of a high school student be able to ask a genetic researcher questions either about their background or questions about, you know, why is this important? It's just, it's been really neat to see and some great feedback from the students. Next slide, Dan.
Hey, Jason, can you touch upon, I love the last point you just made. Can you expand a little bit about how do you facilitate the relationship building between the teachers in your school district and the volunteers from Genentech that are coming in to assist in the classroom?
So, you know, and that has been, you know, traditional education, you know, there's a lot of isolation and teachers are used to operating in their classrooms, you know, alone, especially at the high school level. And then to really facilitate Genentech coming and saying, look, you know, we really could take this to the next level and bring this expertise into the classroom and bring this support. And then on my end, to really facilitate those conversations with the teachers, you know, looking at the long-term vision of, you know, not only today are they here to support, but think of relationships that might be built and mentors for the future and inroads down the road, and just really, you know, trying to show the long-term vision and trying to really focus on the, you know, what is best for our students and really what is best for them. And and the more and more as time goes on, and as we're seeing those relationships blossom, we're seeing some of the defenses go down, and again, seeing the engagement with the kids, and really seeing the teachers feeling supported, and something useful, and something that we're very mindful of. I tell my teachers, I don't want anything to be a burden. We really want this to be beneficial, and they are really feeling that and seeing that at this time.
Dan, if I could add a little bit to that too.
Sure.
You know, we train all of our volunteer TAs before they're going into the classroom. And we actually work with another nonprofit as our partner. It's called Encore Careers. And they take folks who have expertise in a particular industry and get them ready to become teachers as a second career after they've had their first career. And they have a lot of expertise that we don't have. Our expertise is really in science, right? It's not in education. And so they are a helpful bridge, I think, between working at Genentech and then helping out in schools, right? So that, our volunteers are kind of going in there trained and also open-eyed that they're going into an entirely new world, and that they have to be aware of this new world and their interactions with students. So I'm really excited to have that partnership as well, supporting Futurelab.
That's great. I think that emphasized one of the things I was just going to highlight in response to Jason's comments too, was just the importance of viewing the teacher corporate volunteer in the classroom relationship as an opportunity to really focus in on the application of learning. So when you think about, like, you're teaching certain principles in the classroom, or you're trying to get across certain knowledge through a variety of hands-on experiences, but by bringing in a professional who's working in the science field into the classroom, it's like that next layer that allows you to talk about, okay, so those core things that we just talked about or we just learned, here's one way in which they're applied at a corporation that's literally right down the street. And so there's a huge benefit to that type of relationship building for schools. And oftentimes one of the selling points to bring mentoring programs from companies into schools to bring the classroom to life in a way that it otherwise couldn't. So.
Absolutely.
So this year, excitingly, we opened our Science Garage, which is a 6,900 square foot state-of-the-art biotech teaching space. It is just phenomenal. What I think is just great, when you look at this picture, this is our first biotech 3-4, so the second year of our biotech pathway. And if you just look at the students in this class, just the great diversity, and really what we are striving for, big diversity in both ethnicity, male, female. So it's just been great. The pathway is USC CSU approved as a level D lab science. And we're looking at how can we use what's occurring in these classrooms, this hands-on approach, highly engaging for students, and at the same time highly rigorous, which is a big adjustment for the students. The really taking ownership of their learning and not so much of the dependency. And we're hoping as these students are seeing the successes. And we also have a biotech unit, which is implemented in our biology classes, and teachers are starting to see when kids are engaged and having these hands-on experiences that they're seeing success. And so we're really looking at this biotech pathway as somewhat of a Trojan horse into our other STEM areas throughout the school to really shift the way students are engaging in STEM instruction. And next slide, Dan. And really just the overall, to the extent of which really Genentech's partnership is just truly amazing. Donors choose leveraging the resources. So Genentech provides matching through Donors Choose. And I think this year alone, we've had 70 so projects funded that last I looked. And again, it's just amazing. Again, getting resources directly to the teacher's hands, providing unique science-related professional development for our teachers, which they couldn't always access science-related field trips for all of our middle school and high school students, which again is just something in a district with scarce resources at times that cannot provide as many opportunities as Genentech can assist us with. Providing 2 scholarships at both high schools for $50,000 each for our graduating students, and hearing the stories of these students that are now, we were just recently talking to students after their first year in college, and just really giving them access, and not only access to college, but access to supports. And again, and I think that's really the commitment, not just to get a student inside the door into college, but then ensuring that they're supported when we're having students coming from families that really lack the internal support. And then, donations of computers, iPads, and really, again, their human capital. Currently, some of Genentech's IT folks are working with our IT department to really strengthen our infrastructure and our support. Next slide.
I just want to jump in real quick, sorry, on that the last slide, and just give you both a huge amount of congratulations. I mean, I think that when we work with companies and school districts and mentoring programs across the country, oftentimes what we see is, partnerships that have one core focus. And I think, again, one of the most impressive aspects of the public-private partnership that you all have formed through the years is that it is multidimensional. And it really shows, I mean, this slide in and of itself shows the testament to transparency on both ends, being able to articulate what you both need to get from the partnership and what the core needs are in the community as well. And so again, I just wanted to jump in and give you guys a shout out, because again, this is a very unique type of partnership that I think a lot of others could certainly learn from across the country.
Thanks. We love shout outs.
And big shout out to Ragnar and his team for the work. And then, kind of looking at, as we've been talking, as we look at how we're making this program a success, co-designing things together, bringing, the private expertise with the public expertise, and really looking to solve some pretty hard problems. Really, the things we're asking students to do in the classroom, to engage in rich problem solving, we're doing it on our level. Again, the building of capacity. How do we, sustain our programs? How do we build the capacity within, both with resources and with funding? Genentech has been so gracious to really listen to from our side, again, and Ragnar mentioned this, that not coming in and saying, hey, this is what we want to do, or this is what we think's best, but to really bring their ideas, but to listen to our ideas, and then together to develop how we want to tackle these problems. And really, kind of the blessing is just, I feel at times on our end, I get to go to Genentech with the district's dreams of this STEM pathway. This is what we would love to see happen. And then, them coming and saying, hey, let's do it. And it's just, I can't tell you how blessed we feel, how blessed I feel in my position that, coming to be able to just have someone, a partner, to come and say, hey, we're gonna support you in accomplishing this dream. So again, shout out to Ragnar, to his team, Genentech, for all they are doing for our district.
Yeah, and a big shout out to Jason too. It's the partnership is only as good as both of the partners, and I feel like we're really accomplishing a lot together. I think that this is a real model for how other companies and other school districts can work together, because it is possible. It takes some work, it takes some listening, it takes some commitment for a long term, but you can get to a pretty amazing place for not just students and teachers and schools, but very much for the employees that are working at Genentech. This is considered a great place to work, and one of our top indicators is, employee pride in the work that we do in the community, and Futurelab is a massive driver of that. So I really encourage all companies to be looking to their local school district and to see what they can do, see how they can help out, not just in a transactional way, but in a deeply meaningful way to that school district and to your own business.
Ragnar, along that same line, when you talk about the pride that Genentech employees take in this partnership and in the work of Futurelab, can you talk a little bit about some of the tactics that you all use internally at Genentech to drive employee engagement as mentors in the program?
Yeah. You know, our primary tactic is to what we call, our programs are meaningful and magnetic, right? So if you make programs fun, meaningful, and impactful, and you make sure that employees feel all those things, they are going to become the prime recruiters for us, right? And so word of mouth is really the biggest driver. We also do a bunch of other things, like we have an intranet, we post stuff on there, we put up posters, but we'll do events on campus that are big and bold and in front of everyone. So see, and they go, I want to be a part of that, right? I think another way that we do it is we make it very simple for employees to participate. And, you saw in some of those previous slides, this is really asking for, 2 hours per month or 3 hours per month. It's not a huge commitment. And we work with employees to team in groups of volunteer mentors so that they can share the responsibility and as well as the reward. So, every Gene Academy student has 2 mentors. That's great for that student because she gets to see 2 potentially entirely different types of employees at Genentech and who have wildly different jobs. But, those 2 volunteers can count on each other to, I can't make it this week, I'm on vacation. Can you do the next 3 weeks? That sort of logistical solution is cured by having a group mentoring approach, because we know that if there's a single point of failure, one volunteer, one mentor, that potentially can go south pretty quickly and easily. And it doesn't happen within our programs because we have multiple people working with classrooms and working with students.
Just to pick up, Ragnar, on the phrase that you use, meaningful and magnetic, one of the things that I've been continually impressed by every time that I'm reading about or seeing Futurelab spotlighted is the incredible imagery, the photography that is used in a very intentional way to really bring both the mentoring experience and the experiential learning aspect of what Futurelab stands for and what this partnership is all about to life. And I've also heard you guys talk about the events, the sort of the power behind hosting these very high energy, very visual events at your facility drives that energy across the employee base to say, oh, what's going on over there? And how do I get involved in that? And how do I learn more about the partnership with the school district? And so I can highlight those 2 tactics are often 2 tactics that I hold up and spotlight you guys for when talking to other companies. So that's great. Jason, I have a quick question for you that came in. It's around just for those, a lot of schools and a lot of school districts want to reach out and build partnerships with local companies within their backyard. And so I'm curious if there's any advice that you have for a school or a school district that is at the very beginning stage of trying to build those relationships, any sort of tactical advice that you would share with those individuals?
So, with full transparency, I was not here when this relationship started, but, I think, as we do talk to more people and, because it is tough in my previous district, as we try to build things, but I think really, creating a compelling vision, articulating clearly what it is you're trying to accomplish, and trying to really show how certain companies can really impact, the youth in their community. I think that's really beneficial. But I mean, sometimes it's really leveraging the relationships that you have. How do you get to the door? How do you get, in the door to have those initial conversations? because I know it is extremely frustrating being from a principal at a high school that worked a lot. But I think one, listening to this webinar, seeing really highlighting how relationships can be so positive. We're hoping that as this spreads to really see how Genentech has taken this hyper-local approach to really impact its own community and then to see the successes that are coming out of it. But, something that I learned early on is just making sure that we are very clear with what it is we are trying to accomplish and that we're able to articulate it and that we have, a plan and ideas around how to do it. Not so much just looking for money, but really looking for a way to accomplish our mission and vision. And I think that's really been helped to really take our relationship to the next level.
Yeah, and I would add to that, that if a school wants to approach a company, think about what's smart for that company to be doing, right? So if South San Francisco would have come to us and say, we really want to work on, just English language arts, right? It would have been a very transitory, it would have been a short experience if that was the case and they were not interested in science, because science is where we're at, right? So finding that commonality to that company and saying, hey, we want you, not just your money, but really we want your people, right? Because they are super valuable as role models for our students and as conveyors of information, right? And we don't just want your money, we want your expertise and your time as well, would be really, really important.
That's great. We have time for one more question, and either one of you or both of you could answer it. And that is, when you think about this partnership and the length of the relationship and the impact that you've been able to have across all of the Futurelab programming, how do you guys go about measuring the impact or articulating the impact to others who are interested in maybe replicating this type of work?
Jason, you want me to do that one, or you want to do it?
Yeah, you could handle that, Ragnar.
Okay. So, we're in it for the long haul, right? And so some of our metrics and our outcomes, some of our metrics we know now, some of our outcomes we'll only know years from now, right? So we're really looking at, interest in science, ability to do science from a student level, intention to study STEM in college, to go to college, to study STEM in college, to pursue careers in STEM-related fields, right? We're looking at, from a teacher perspective, what's their comfort with teaching science in the younger years? What's their confidence in it, right? How do they how do they feel about the techniques that they have and the tools that they have available and the collaboration that we're able to bring to cohorts of teachers? From an employee engagement standpoint, we're really looking at, hey, how do you feel about Genentech as a result of this? How do you see your job, your skills evolving, right? And your connections deepening, right? So, and do these programs contribute to why you stay here at Genentech in terms of, retention? So it's the full sort of employee life cycle of attraction, engagement, development, and retention is what we're looking to monitor. We do that through program surveys. We do that through cross-cutting indicators and surveys that go to every student across the district. We also do that with increasingly with getting some working with the school district and a third-party evaluator to pull data from the South City schools to be looking at grades and test scores, GPA, et cetera. And with time, I think we're hoping to then create systems that will know where some of these students, did these students go after they graduated from South City, and what are they doing now that they've graduated? But that's like I said, potentially still years out, but we expect to be pretty robust in our outcomes measurement with this program, which is very exciting.
That's super helpful. I mean, I think. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
And so, you know, and kind of the big discussions now. Sorry, actually, when you asked that question, a call came in, and the question kind of got jumbled up. So I mean, I think now, you know, and really what we're focusing on now is, you know, we not only want to have students engaged in you know, fun science and, you know, hands-on science, but we want to really ensure that they're also developing those, you know, essential priority critical, you know, STEM skills so that they can be successful as they go off into college and into careers. So really trying to, you know, starting to really talk a lot about now is how do they know after they are, as they progress through our system, that they really are developing these essential skills. So it's again another neat conversation that's occurring to really kind of focus in on not just on ensuring that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just going to highlight again a couple key things that I see as a differentiator for the partnership between the two of you. Is number one is you're looking at both on the Genentech side, you're looking at both an internal and an external set of measures when you think about your impact. So you're not just thinking about the impact on the students or on the school district or on the community, but you're also thinking about what's this impact on our own employees and on the business, and making sure that that is a balancing act. And the other is just the short and long term. I love that, you know, so many organizations will say, you know, it's just too hard to measure the longer term impact of whether these young people go into STEM careers eventually. But what you've done is you sort of balanced it with what are some of our short term outcomes that we want to be able to achieve, and then keeping an eye on what those longer term measures of success would ultimately be as well. And so it's just great advice for people who are building these types of public-private partnerships and are really launching mentoring programs to think about in the short and long term, and think about internal and external outcomes too. Well, unfortunately, guys, we are at a time, and so I just wanted to highlight a few things real quick. If you have enjoyed today's webinar session and you are interested in accessing additional case studies or looking at the archive of previous webinars that we've done spotlighting other types of partnerships, practices, or programs in the youth mentoring space, you can access our online philanthropic community of practice, which is open to companies, foundations, and individual donors investing in youth mentoring. We also have the National Mentoring Resource Center, which is available, full of tools, case studies, evaluation resources to help get programs started or to help programs enhance or scale their initiatives. And lastly, I would just highlight the National Mentoring Summit is held annually. We're super excited that both Jason and Ragnar are going to be at our event this year in January 24th to 26th. Also hosting one of the sessions in our philanthropic partnerships track to go over in more depth their partnership and the relationship around Futurelab. So on behalf of Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership, Ragnar, Jason, I just want to say a huge thank you to both of you for taking the time to participate in today's session. And probably more importantly, is just taking the time over the last 10 plus years to build the type of relationship that exists between Genentech and the South San Francisco Unified School District. It really is a pillar relationship that others should look to and find ways of replicating either elements of it or the program and the work that you guys have done overall. So thank you both so much for being with us today.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you all for joining us. Whether you were tuning in live or you're listening to our recording, we hope that you'll tune in next time and follow us on mentoring.org to get the latest webinar information and the latest research and publications from the National Mentoring Partnership. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.